we start? Oh, we're started already. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Best Concordia, a new podcast happening here at Concordia University in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in the Ethnography Lab. And I am your host, Johnny B., your hostess with the mostest. And I'm super excited because this is our first episode of the podcast. This is amazing. I'm so excited that we have finally got this off the ground, and I'm coming to you. I'm in your ear. This is amazing. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the podcast before we launch into the meat and potatoes here. So the podcast really came about. It's happening here in the Ethnography Lab in conjunction with them. It's myself and my two producers, Anne-Marie Turcotte and Kris Millett, and we are all students in the Sociology and Anthropology department here at Concordia. And really what we want to do with this podcast is really sort of, because it's in the ethnography, get a sense of ethnographers and grad students and their work. So in some way, we're trying to turn the lens back on ourselves and to shine a light on the people who are doing the research. So we are taking sort of a more human approach to academia and grad students and grad student life. Kind of a backstage pass to student research, and really what we're trying to do is demystify the ivory tower. We want this podcast to be fun. It's not stuffy. It's not uptight. It's just a good time and a casual chat about research and student life. So really how it's going to happen is this is going to be our first season, and what we're going to do is we're going to follow this group of people, this group of students, get to know them, find out about them and the work that they're doing, and really get a sense of their stories. So, and I also have ulterior motives myself personally. I feel like a bit of a noob. I'm a master's student here in the program. And, part of my objective in coming to the sociology department here at Concordia was that I felt like my sort of knowledge around theory and just sort of academia in general was a little bit lacking. So the great thing about this podcast is that it's also going to be an educational journey for me as a researcher and as a student. So hopefully I will learn some things, and hopefully you will learn those things along with me. And really, it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be for anybody who's interested in this world and these topics, and hopefully we'll all learn a thing or two together. So, and we are recording here in the Ethnography Lab, and I just want to say you might hear some voices in the background. The Ethnography Lab, it's like a big open space. It's a gorgeous room, lots of windows, and there are people working collaboratively in here all the time. So there may be background noise because it's a hub, and there's activity and research and things happening all the time. So just if you hear something in the background, that's probably what you're hearing. And I might turn to my producers every now and then and say, hi, Anne-Marie, or hi, Kris, and you might hear them in the background too. So don't be alarmed if you hear them, because they're awesome too. So we want to get them involved in this. And if you want to participate, please reach out, comment, subscribe. We are on pretty much every social media channel you can imagine. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. We're everywhere. It's Best Concordia, Best C, which, by the way, I just want to take a minute and explain the title of our podcast. It's kind of a nod to, if you are in academia or you've gone to university, you've probably received an email at some point that has been signed Best Blank, Best Kris Millett, Best Anne-Marie Turcotte, Best Concordia. It's how we sign our emails. It's so heartfelt. It's a really, yes, exactly. We're very earnest, heartfelt. We mean it. Best. We mean that best. But we do mean that best. And also, you could shorten it to Best, see, because this podcast, it's the best, see? So right now we're going to get cracking with our very first interview. I'm so excited. I have Ariana Solis and Elizabeth White, who are both PhD students here at Concordia. Ariana is a PhD student in the Social and Cultural Analysis program here. She's an environmental sociologist. And Elizabeth is in the Interdisciplinary PhD, or HUMA. Is that correct?
That is right.
Yes. And what does HUMA stand for again?
Humanities.
Humanities. Mm-hmm. So it's an new interdisciplinary program, and she is a new PhD student in that program.
Yes.
Incoming.
I start in September.
Starting in September, which is super exciting. Mm-hmm. Congratulations
Thank you.
Being accepted into that program.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have you both here because really I want to sort of like start off by talking about this place that we're doing this podcast in, this ethnography lab, which I just said, it's a beautiful, incredible space to be working in. So can you guys just tell me what your roles are or have been in the ethnography lab so far? Maybe, Ariana, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. So I was brought on last summer to start coordinating this. It was a vision that several faculty members had across several disciplines. So, for example, Craig Hetherington from anthropology and Bart Simon from sociology, or Halpin from sociology, but we also have professors involved from geography, political science, history, engineering, a range of disciplines came together and who do ethnography and who want to explore innovative ethnographic research.
Right.
So I was brought on as the first coordinator, which was a really exciting role for me because I'm kind of a methods nerd, as Anne-Marie and Kris know very well. And I like research methods as a way of exploring different forms of art-based research, and different ways of looking at social issues that are tricky to capture using conventional research methods. So different methods for exploring mobility and what have you. So it's been a really interesting way to talk about the process of doing ethnography. And so my role has really been to kind of help set things up. And luckily Liz was here to help take over for me, so I can start my fieldwork soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you are going to Mexico to start doing your fieldwork.
Exactly.
So before we go further with the ethnography lab, I just want to ask you, because you're a methods nerd and you're into these cool ways of doing of approaching your work, are you doing sort of an inventive method for your fieldwork?
Several inventive methods, actually,
Yeah.
yes. But definitely not neglecting what we typically know as the tradition of ethnography. So engaged participant observation, in-depth interviews are still very much a part of what I'll be doing. But yeah, I do want to explore several inventive methods, drawing from sensory methods, different object interviews, looking at the life history of objects. Mobile interviews, for example, or something I'm going to be working on.
Mobile interviews, like you're moving and interviewing at the same time?
Yeah. So I still have to figure out exactly how I'm going to do all of this, but yeah.
Very cool. And do you feel like the ethnography lab is offering you support in terms of that stuff with your own work, or is it kind of...
Well, definitely. I think the lab was definitely created so graduate students could get together and have a space to talk about methods and collaborate. And so, for example, our Field Note Museum, the Living Gallery that we've created, has been a really nice way to discuss the process of doing field work. So we've put different forms of field notes and field data on the wall. I can't show you because this is a podcast, but
right behind us.
So right behind us, you can see a whole wall of a tapestry of different images and notes and scribbles.
Right.
And there's an actual book, so you can actually go and touch. It's got Tristan's badge from where she went and did her field work, and those are
her fieldwork notes in that book. It's like a journal.
Exactly, and we've got some found objects, there's a postcard, for example, that we found at one of the secondhand stores where we bought our frames, and the woman who had written the postcard in the 50s has crossed out the name Mr. By her name and just put her first name, Yvonne, I think it is. Cool. So it's just an interesting way of exploring the process of doing research, and so that we can have a discussion with each other about the process and make that a little bit less intimidating, and also to be self-reflexive and get new ideas and have an open dialogue about what it is to do ethnography, and have it be less about hiding in a cave and writing a dissertation on your own, and having it be a bit more collaborative.
Right. And so this would be a good time maybe to ask you, so in terms of ethnography, I had to Wikipedia because I was I kind of know, but I don't really know, and I just want to know. But according to the website, they talk about participant observation being sort of a cornerstone, mixed qualitative data collection, so interviewing, I guess, is what that would be, and then, but also, you're saying, art, taking pictures, books, recordings, these are all parts, potential parts of an ethnography. Would that be reasonable?
I mean, I think the beautiful thing about ethnography is it allows for a lot of mixing of different qualitative methods.
Right.
But definitely, like, the nuts and bolts of ethnography has always been engaged participant observation.
Yeah.
And
writing, right?
Writing and taking field notes. And I think we sometimes forget to talk about field notes and how important they are, but I think that that's definitely something we've tried to emphasize here is what are field notes, how can we talk about this more and analyze them in different ways.
Right. And so also they're talking on the website about this being a site of interdisciplinary methodological thinking, and we've talked about, there's like a whole bunch of departments who are involved in this, and Liz, your program is interdisciplinary.
That's right,
in that sense too. Can you talk a little bit about that program, because I'm curious about it?
Okay, well, I'm not the authority on information about this program because I'm just coming in, but the HUMA program is one of the 2 interdisciplinary degree programs in the university. One is the individualized program, which can combine cross-faculty supervision.
Okay.
But the humanities program is an interdisciplinary program within the humanities specifically.
Okay.
And
what drew you to the program? Like what?
I did my master's in the anthropology of dance specifically. That's where I would situate myself, and kind of on the verge of performance studies, but I wouldn't call myself a performance studies scholar.
Right.
And I found that anthropology could only support me so much in the kind of methods that I wanted to take with presenting my research and the knowledge that I gathered from the field and the stories that I wanted to share.
Right.
Stories which were not just verbal stories, but were also musical stories and embodied danced gestures.
Yes.
And so this master's degree has certain requirements to be fulfilled, and it doesn't always allow for a lot of play, and especially because they're cutting down the number of pages that you're allowed to write, but then you're only really supposed to be writing this master's degree or a master's thesis. So it challenged me to really allow the audience to engage with what this field means. And I thought in the kind of things I want to pursue in the future, I need to go somewhere where there are other opportunities to play in the field and then bring that play back to the institution. And
cool. And it seems like that is kind of what is happening in this lab too, that it's like offering people a place to play and experiment with things and then bring them back into their own work, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Definitely. I think we've had a lot of fun with that because sometimes you just get a little bit bogged down with your research, but you still want to explore some of the ideas you're dealing with theoretically. So, for example, like making this table, and it sounds like Adam, you're going to be interviewing Adam at some point,
yes,
who has been an integral part of this table and taught us all carpentry. And it was just this really fun, engaging experience for us all to come together and build a space that we could feel good about working together in. And the fact that we were all a part of the process, even some people just spent like half an hour doing a bit of sounding with us. And so we're all kind of a part of this table now. And I think that's what's made it a really cooperative workspace and very successful. The fact that we were all, and then Kris brought us to the Eco Depot, which is where we got a lot of the other things. A lot of things were, salvaged or from secondhand stores. And so, but the fact that we all collaborated on that, I think, has made it a really unique space where we all want to get together and talk about even reuse ethnographically or as a research method.
Amazing. Yeah, and we should say that we are sitting and recording this at this gorgeous, repurposed wood table, and this is the table that you're talking about that everybody had a part in creating.
The very shiny table.
The very shiny table. Yeah, I love that. It's really cool. So, so maybe you guys could talk a little bit about who can become a member here at the Ethnography Lab.
Well, I think everyone is welcome when there are events and workshops. So there's a workshop coming up this Friday on, what's it called?
Emotions and entanglements in the field.
So to register,
hold on, let me make sure
please contact...
you have to say that again because I want to make sure I get it right.
Oh, yeah. Emotion...
Can we cut that?
Can we sing it?
In the field?
Emotions
yes.
and entanglements in the field.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Can you ask us again about...
Love it. But what is it called? Sorry, what's the proper name of it?
Emotions and entanglements in the field.
Oh, that is what it is. Okay, great. And it's a workshop here.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So everyone is welcome to come to that. Please contact Elizabeth if you would like to join us for that workshop. Graduate students, we have graduate students involved, again, from a range of different disciplines.
Yeah.
And I particularly love connecting with some of the interdisciplinary grad students we don't normally get to see. So, for example, Adam is involved in a lot of philosophy.
Right.
Erica is crossed with economics even. We have, Pamela Tudge connects with us. She's in food studies and fine arts. Jessica, for example, is in creative arts therapies. So we have a range of interdisciplinary students.
Amazing.
So definitely grad students, especially for, some people call the indie program, the independent program, the loneliness program. So we especially want to reach out to those students who, also because it's just a really nice space to come and work.
Absolutely.
So we definitely welcome all graduate students. There's a lot of us from sociology, anthropology, but from other departments as well.
Amazing. Yeah, and I mean, like, the indie program, you can joke that it's the lonely program, but, like, they all can have the potential to be lonely programs.
It's true.
Sometimes,
true.
right?
Which is something...
Right.
I wanted to make a point around that exactly because I feel like we can also be isolated in the drudgery of a particular project, like writing your dissertation or your master's thesis, and doing the editing in a lit review, but then coming together across disciplines or within disciplines on a different project brings a lot of momentum and inspiration back into your body, and that carries back into the work that you're doing. So you take some time out of your day or out of your week to participate in something that really jazzes you.
Right.
And there's a feedback loop there.
Absolutely.
And it really, really helps with the other work that we have to do that feels alone. And also because we're doing a lot of that lonely work with other people here.
Yes.
And we're all kind of like commiserating,
and
but then
together.
trying not to... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this is why I was saying, like, the ethnography lab, maybe I didn't articulate it well, but the ethnography lab would support your methods and your work, because even doing a project that seemingly is unrelated, like you say, but that you're excited about, that there is that feedback loop. It transfers back into your own work, and you can sort of, like, use that excitement and channel it into your own projects, which is, like, I think a really valuable and amazing offshoot of the work that you guys are doing in the lab here. So hooray for that.
Yeah, generally I think it's very energizing. And even some of so I'm sure you'll be meeting with I call them the truckers, but they actually have a really great name, which is 18-Wheeled Ethnography. So I'm sure you'll be meeting with them and with the Cabot Square group and all of the working groups. But just to say that, the concern was always, how are you people going to find time to do these extra projects when they have their regular theses? But I think everyone has found it to be really energizing, so that's nice.
Cool. Okay, and so you mentioned the groups. So what's the deal with all of these groups in the ethnography lab?
Right. So the idea at the beginning was to have small working groups that can have small mini ethnographic projects that they carry out, and that are also a form of engaging with the community, the wider community.
Right. Great.
And just seeing what ethnography has to offer in terms of, for example, looking at compost, which is a project we've talked a lot about doing. So there's a lot of research on compost. So what other textures or perspectives can ethnography offer that aren't being explored in the dominant research paradigms, or might not be captured by all the quantitative data about waste?
Right.
So, for example, I live in I'm talking about Machi's research topic a little bit too much because he's doing this for his thesis now, but I live in an area with a lot of elderly people where there's composting, and so some of them have different perspectives on composting, because my neighbors come from a rural community where they've composted all their lives, but they're not used to putting it in this brown bin. So it'd be really interesting to interview different people and see how they interact with compost, for example. But again, the composting project hasn't quite kicked off yet, but hopefully that'll be a new project.
Yeah.
For example, the 18-Wheeled Ethnography Group is doing an amazing project where they're already interviewing women truckers about gender in the trucking industry, and looking at it through different inventive methods and the perspective of material vitality. So it'll be a really fascinating project. I'm really excited to see where they go with it.
Very cool. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to them about that too. So we talked about the emotional entanglements in the field. Are there any other events coming up that we should know about in the lab? Anything?
Well, actually, this summer in June is the International Visual Sociology Association. One of the professors who works with us from the Department of Education, Maria Carolina, is one of the organizers. And so we are going to be hosting a whole panel in the lab, and which we're very excited about. And we've got a series of presentations about making ethnography and remaking ethnography. So we're going to talk about the making of this table, for example, about the making of our living gallery, and this whole process of being honest about the process of making field notes and looking for more feedback throughout that process. Jessica and I are going to do a presentation about a reuse method that we created in the class I did with John on inventive methods.
The qualitative methods class, right?
And Pamela Tudge is going to she works with issues of food waste and reuse, and so she's going to be doing a presentation as well. And it's a way to invite people into our space who are coming from all over the world and looking at visual sociology from a variety of perspectives.
Fantastic.
So we're very excited about that.
And when is that? Sorry, do you know the dates for that?
It is June 20-something.
June 20-something. Well, you know what? We'll link.
June 19th to 22nd.
Perfect. There we go.
If you
Amazing.
Google IVSA 2017, you will find all of the information you need.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
And how can people get in touch with you guys here at the Ethnography Lab? Is there an email address, or they can just Google Ethnography Lab and find out where you guys are?
It is concordia.ethnography@gmail.com.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Amazing.
And you can also visit our website, ethnography.labconcordia.ca.
That's right.
Yeah, I was on it this morning, so it's a beautiful website, so go check it out.
Why,
everybody.
thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you both. Thanks,
thank you.
Elizabeth, and thanks, Ariana, for being my first guests. Yay, we're breaking it in.
I would just like to congratulate John for being an awesome host.
Yes, thank you so
and
much.
to Anne-Marie and Kris for all of their technical know-how and amazing organizational skills for bringing this all together.
Thank you. Thanks, Ariana. I appreciate that. And we will be right back. And actually, speaking of the 18-wheel ethnography group, we are going to be talking to them next. So stay tuned for Cheda and Gabrielle coming right up.
Sky.
And that was Apocalypse Trees by the Snipes, who are the band of Adam Van Sertima, who is a PhD student in the Interdisciplinary program here at Concordia University. So thanks, Adam, for that super fun tune. And coming up next, I will be talking to one of the research groups here at the Ethnography Lab, the 18-Wheeler Trucking Group, so stay tuned for that. We're here in the Ethnography Lab right now, and I'm joined by two lovely guests. I have Gabrielle Lavenir and Cheda Yolgormes, both of whom are PhD students in the Social and Cultural Analysis program here at Concordia. Gabrielle looks at silver gamers, or older people who play video games, and the intersection of aging and play. And Cheda is looking at, well, previously, now tell me if I'm right, looked at development of common sense in virtual worlds, and specifically World of Warcraft, right?
True, yeah.
I want to hear more about that.
Yeah.
And then now looking at questions of machine agency in the context of artificial intelligence labs. And both of them are part of the trucking research group here at the Ethnography Lab. So welcome, you guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this trucking research group. What's it all about?
So I guess it all started when we had these ethnography lab meetings that were just about, hey, let's get these people together and hope that people do work along.
Mm-hmm.
And we made a group who were interested in technology and questions around surveillance. And Adam brought up this idea of trucking research, like doing research on truckers, because trucking culture is like a really interesting one, highly masculinized and highly understudied too, really, like in terms of like having an in-depth context into what is happening in the culture. So that was like an interesting question, and we sort of felt like that was distant enough from our thesis topics to keep us, occupied and like, healthy and sane.
Yeah.
So we just jumped in.
Fabulous.
And I don't have much to add to our principal investigator's work.
I feel really...
So Cheda, you're the principal investigator on this project?
Yeah, that's...
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's basically a name, but like, yeah, I'm just trying to keep everyone coordinated, but
Right.
like we're all sharing the work that we have to do, and it's a great teamwork too. I was always skeptical about having teamworks really, but luckily I have the best teammates ever. We are like sharing everything and like doing everything properly. No one is getting bogged down or just getting dragged or anything.
Nice.
So it's really great. It's really nice to be with people who are responsible. Ethnography lab is turning out to be, I don't know, a jewel maybe?
Yeah, it seems like it for sure. So who are the other people on the team besides the two of you?
Adam Van Sertima
Yeah.
and Carmen Lamoth.
Okay.
Is that true? I don't know her
I
last
suck at
name.
names.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think that's true though.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, cool. And so was it important for you guys to like come up with a project where it was far away from the work that you're doing in your...
Yes, and we've had not problems with it, but we've been working on the ethics application, and it came back to us with a big note saying, whose thesis topic is this? You have to make it clear. And we're like, it's no one's thesis. We're just like working on this for fun. And we got a lot of unconvinced notes about, okay, who are you really working for?
Oh, so
Yeah.
they knew that you were working for the ethnography lab.
Yep, it was written down and everything, but they still were a bit wary of, like, they must not be used to people really working on random projects for fun.
Right.
And it was quite fun to try to explain in the notes, no, it's no one's, no, we're being irresponsible and not working on our thesis, we swear. It's our thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. Isn't that funny? Those ethics people. It's
No.
strange. Yeah.
Stops being funny after a while, but yeah.
Yeah, it's true. So have you only had to do one round of revisions on it? Because you
Yeah.
have ethics approval now, right?
No.
No, we're still waiting
We're
on
like
Still waiting.
stalling with the people who we want to interview, being like,
Yeah.
we're sorry, but we have... And plus, neither of us have ever worked with ethics application thingy.
Yeah, it's not that much of a deal in Europe. I mean,
No.
if you are working with really groups who are vulnerable, you have to go through ethics. But if you're working with regular humans, that's not a problem. Usually, I know.
Right, and I can imagine for a project like this that there would be like a really high risk of your participants, or I can't imagine that there would be risk to your participants in a project.
We have trouble finding them. We have to fill in the blanks, and they ask us to give risk, and we're like, we don't know. Like, maybe they will be sad. Maybe they won't like us, but that's as risky as it gets. And so it's a weird exercise when you've never done it before.
Yeah, that too.
To write 17 pages on the subject of...
I mean, it's good to have this kind of space to reflect on the, subject-object kind of relationship where you kind of get entangled with the potential participants in a theoretical realm. But other than that, it's just a bit of a drag, especially when you're not working with exciting populations, really.
Right. And so who are these participants? Like, do you know a bunch of truckers?
We're looking for truckers.
Yeah, if anyone knows truckers, let us know.
Calling out for truckers.
Yep. Please. Well, basically we know truckers, but we don't know women truckers, and we actually wanted to focus on women truckers.
Right.
Because they're making only 3% of the trucker workforce right now in Canada, so they're rare.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get across people, but luckily we have had some connections, and Gabrielle can maybe...
Anne-Marie, who's sitting right there behind the camera.
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Someone from, was it elementary school? How far? Yeah. Who is a trucker and a woman.
Oh, you know somebody?
So, yep.
Amazing. So there's one person.
There's one person. Yeah. And then we got a phone call a couple days ago.
Exactly. We put up ads at a trucker, trucking company. And then this woman called us and she said, she's really passionate about driving and she's really passionate about her job. And we were so thrilled to have her because I was a bit, pessimistic about advertising because, people have to call. It's like an extra action in their lives that they don't necessarily have to take. But this woman did, and it's I'm super excited to get the ethics form and get to feel.
I keep having to send emails we don't have it yet. I'm really sorry. Can we push it back another week?
Yeah.
So wait, how did you put up one of the posters at a trucking company? Is that how that worked?
Yes.
And then she called? That's amazing.
Yeah, basically, we actually wanted to put ads in truck stops.
Yeah.
Because that's basically a socialization space, yet another socialization space for truckers. But apparently they didn't allow ads, so we kind of sneaked a couple of them in, but they weren't visible enough. So we went to this trucking company where they just do transportation business in general. And we put up our ads, and Adam made these great posters that are just so attractive and so, they're just so good to look at. Yeah, they're just an eye grabber. We hanged them on the walls, and this sweet lady helped us with that, who worked there. So,
That's amazing. I feel like that's something I'm always pessimistic also about people wanting to participate in my research. I'm always it's labor and I'm not paying them, especially I'm a master's student, so I don't have money to give anybody, so I'm always worried about that. And then it always surprises me, but I think people are, people want to talk about their lives, especially when it's something where you're 3% of the population, you're a woman truck driver, and, that's a story that we don't hear a lot. I'm sure that's something that it's appealing to think, I can share this, and it's a story that needs to be told and heard. So
the nice thing is our premise was we want to give people an opportunity to be heard and seen, but often that's academic. Can I say bullshit on air?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's usually academic bullshit about, look at how important my institute is.
Right.
But here we actually end up seeing that people want to be heard. People want to talk to us, which is nice because we feel a bit more useful.
For sure. Okay, so this is a good spot for me to ask you, what How are they telling their stories? How is this, like, what's sort of the method that you guys are using?
Yeah, so we are going to try something that we have termed object-oriented storytelling.
Okay.
So this is like an amazing idea that traveled from Ariana Solis through Gabrielle into our group.
Okay. Say it again.
Object-oriented storytelling.
Object-oriented storytelling. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure
Got
there
it.
are examples of it, but
Right.
we couldn't find a coherent name for it, so we
Okay.
just kind of came up with the name. But what it's about is basically we are asking the participants to bring an object with them to the interview, and we will ask them to talk about the object and come up with the stories behind the object, and sort of use the object as a centerpiece where they can develop their narrative.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is we're trying to tie in the discourse with the matter.
Okay.
And we're trying to close that gap between, materiality and the linguistic part.
Right.
In this sense. So yeah, but of course, we're gonna try it. We'll see how it works out, and we will be back with a workshop on how to do it, and if it is should people, watch out for stuff when they're doing it, when they're conducting it. But it's like a really, really exciting opportunity. And it's one of the good things about EthnoLab too, right? I mean, coming up with these experimental methods.
Yes.
It's really, really exciting.
It's super exciting. I love it. And so, and like open-ended, any kind of object, or are you sort of like giving people guidelines, or how's that working?
We also tied with the idea of it might be something we do on top of everything else. We also tied with the idea of asking them to bring pictures, and especially pictures of the truck and the truck cabin.
Okay.
Because it's a place where, according to the bit of literature review we did, people put really personal stuff.
Right.
Because people live in there
It's
for
your
days
home.
at a time.
Yeah.
So that might be a direction for our research, and otherwise, I think we're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna. The first person is really gonna be
a bit of a
subject,
an experimental subject for us. Yeah.
But that is super cool, and the exciting part about this ethnography lab is that you guys there's freedom to sort of develop these methods which you might not otherwise get an opportunity to do in a more conventional sort of this is my field work for a master's or a PhD, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is why it's so exciting too.
Yeah, I love that.
There's the safe spot where we can just sort of carry out these wacky, crazy, I don't know.
And who knows how it's going to go, but you can just do it and see what sticks.
Exactly.
And even at a more basic level, we're in a PhD program, so we're not supposed to be on the field right away.
Right.
And I know it's been hard for me to not be on the field, because when I was in my master's, since we don't have to apply for ethics, we could just go on a field trip for a couple of days or...
Wait, you didn't have to apply for ethics in your master's degree?
Never, no, we don't have it. It has been discussed, but in my country it doesn't exist.
In France?
Except for medical research.
Okay, right, obviously, yeah.
And so here, I've been doing stuff on my own, but I can't use it for my research, and being able to actually go on the field and do proper field work and talk to actual people and not stay stuck behind the computer screen for 2 years is amazing. It's great.
Yes.
It's not easy to get there.
Right. Yeah, because it can be isolating in academia, right?
Yeah. It's a place to be isolated, indeed.
Together.
Next to each other. True.
Yeah, fantastic. So you can come back then when you've done this field work and plug the workshop and tell us all about it. We would love to have you.
Yeah, that's the basic idea. Yeah.
And so, is there going to be a visual component with these objects, or is it just going to be part of the interview process? Have you thought about that?
Well, we are going to take pictures of the object too, and object is going to be, like I said, the centerpiece of the conversation or the interview. So we're going to have that. We're going to tap into the materiality of it, visually mainly, of course, and narratively too. But now of course, now we are kind of switching into deliverables. That what will come out from this research is we will try to make reports that are highly accessible to regular audiences. We are not only going to, make a highly academic report of it and just publish it in the journals where, only scholars will read.
Yeah.
We are trying to, create avenues where maybe these subjects could also find other, could maybe utilize these tools to, construct their own communities, find places where they can connect with each other. So in that sense, there's going to be we are going to rely highly on visuals and sound too, perhaps. Mm-hmm. And we are thinking
sound in what way? Sound?
It's a bit up in the air. We
don't
know.
That's also the nice thing about that kind of relatively quick field work is that in many circumstances we're pushed to put a lot of theory into whatever we're doing on the field.
Right.
And the nice thing about what we're doing is we can skip that whole overthinking part.
Yeah.
I know it's also my the academic tradition of the place I studied in before.
Sure.
But it's also refreshing to not have to read tons of books about how you're supposed to ask questions to people. We all have some kind of experience with ethnography, and we just want to go and trust the people we're talking to and working with, because I think we all think that they're going to have better ideas than we could ever hope to have.
Exactly. True.
So.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to, we are going to make analysis of course, our findings.
Yeah.
But this is more of an avenue where we will focus more on how to bring the voice of the subject more integrated into the research.
Right. It sounds pretty collaborative in
Yeah.
terms of you as researchers and your participants.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. That's one of the aims of this project too.
So then, what do you sort of know coming into this? About truck drivers, in terms of what's already out there. Is there much? Is it all about men? I would assume so.
Well, there is much about there actually. It's not that few, but but of course, usually not. The studies have focused on the on being more descriptive of the field, and of course usually focus on the male truck drivers because they're more accessible and they make the majority and they make the hegemonic voice of the crowd.
Yeah.
For women truck drivers, there is research on that. I mean, but still, it's not. I mean, the research aren't that much elaborate on the subject, and usually a bit more market-driven too, actually, because...
In what way? What do you mean?
Because women truck drivers are, like I said, they're a minority in the field. They are actually now becoming the target group for diversification of the trucker workforce.
Okay.
So there are a lot of associations for women truck drivers that are focusing on HR, improving HR capacities.
Right.
So they are making research into how to, how they can invite more women truck drivers into the workforce.
Gotcha.
And that in that sense, it's market driven.
Yeah.
And even in the when you look at stuff about the default trucker, which is a man, it's also very market or at least policy driven, because it's a field that has had so much trouble. The reforms of the trucking industry are really hard to implement.
Right.
And it's a mess. The working conditions are awful. Mm-hmm. So most of the papers and books about truckers are about how terrible their work life is.
Yeah.
And it's targeted towards policymakers. It often lists suggestions and stuff that could be done to improve a lot of the truck drivers. Mm-hmm.
So you guys are sort of forging new territory with this because it's about the experiences and lives of truckers on the road, just not strictly the working conditions or those market aspects, but you want to know sort of the larger context of what their lives are like. Is that fair?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Well, that's what ethnography is about too, right? I mean, getting the more, the nuances, the more subtleties of the field. But
and like you said, it's often very descriptive, and those studies are scattered over a number of countries and moments in history. So the challenge is to make it not only a portrait of trucking in Canada in 2017. It's to give some sort of vibe of an atmosphere. It's almost literary in that sense.
Right.
Because otherwise we can spend pages explaining how the wages work and what the laws are, and that's not what we want to do.
No, because it's done. It's been done before.
Yeah.
And we want to do something else. Yeah.
So that's the focus on stories and objects rather than a portrait of the field.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is another good segue because I wanted to ask you both, moving away from your project. So we're in the ethnography lab right now, and one of the questions Anne-Marie and our other producer, Kris, and I have been having is, what is the ethnography lab? And for me, too, what is ethnography? I Wikipedia'd it the other day because I was like, I need to have somebody explain this to me really simply. But I'm curious what your ideas about that are.
You're asking what ethnography is? Or?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and next you're going to ask us what the difference between sociology and anthropology is?
Maybe.
I'm out, okay? You can take this.
Well, you alluded to it, Gina.
But I mean, this is a question that I've been having for the last couple of years too, because my master's project was also an ethnography project, but I'm not so sure what ethnography really means, but this is what happens when you just get so much involvement with a term, I think, right? They just lose their meaning. Maybe this is a blockage that we're having here. But for me, I think ethnography means, ethnography is probably an amalgam of different practices of data gathering.
Okay.
That involve active participation of the researcher into the field that they're observing, and so that would basically be it. And of course, writing it up is also a huge part of ethnography, how you write, how you integrate your experiences. So there's this phenomenological dimension to it that requires articulation, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to take a stab at it? I mean, that also. I think that sounded like a really great answer to me.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. I think I got it.
You know what ethnography is. That's clear to me.
That's why I'm not going to answer what is ethnography because you just did amazingly, and I know ethnography to me is kind of a different thing because I have this allergy to theory. I'm really suspicious of lots of stuff that has big words in it.
Right.
Which can be traced back to my personal history with philosophy, I guess, but that's another subject. What I like about the fact that it's really hard to define ethnography is precisely it escapes definition. You just know when you're doing it.
Right.
It's like love.
Right, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy just going and talking to people and having a pretense of a professional behavior.
Yeah.
And really I'm just running after people and asking them questions because I'm really super curious about how other people live. And you still have to think about it because it has lots of ethical implications and everything.
Yeah.
But just spontaneously, it's just talking to people and recording it so that you can remember it better afterwards. And then you also get paid sometimes to do it, which is nice.
That's the holy grail.
Yeah.
And also, it's useless. In the big scheme of things, it's useful. But mostly, you're not coming with questions that you would ask at a job interview. You're not asking people. You're just hoping for the most random things to come up, for nice, funny anecdotes and stories. And I love the contrast between what you actually do when you're an ethnographer and what, say, a journalist does. Yeah. Because they do something really useful, which is get answers to specific questions that everybody's wondering about.
Right.
We don't. We're just random, not even storytellers. We're just random people throwing microphones. It's nice. It's useless.
Yeah, hoping for that magic to kind of materialize in the field. Cool. I would like to hear about your own research, because we talked about that a little bit. We talked about sort of if you want to just do a little plug for what you guys are up to. I know that you're doing stuff about artificial intelligence, an agency with machines, right? Which is interesting to me. I'm curious if that fits in the world of this debate around structure versus agency that we often have in the social sciences.
Yeah, I know.
Like, can machines carve out their own agency even though they've been programmed by humans to do certain things?
Well,
is that
I
fear?
mean, right now I'm in the, this is a difficult one because like I'm a first year PhD and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, hey.
But basically,
It doesn't get better.
Yeah. But basically, I'm interested in this question because like when I look at the world, I think what I see is like a semi-differentiated connectivity between things, and these things include humans and non-humans too, and stuff are happening in the world in terms of like actions or practices, and I always kind of wonder what's the place of these non-living organisms, that like what is the potential that they're bringing into the world.
Absolutely.
And this is a question that often escapes sociology, and well, I have a problem with sociology's general ways of doing things too. So for me, the basic idea is to move beyond this human subject that has been the central focus for sociology for a long time, like you said, like the structure agency kind of dilemma,
right?
And sort of move away from that and come up with new possibilities to think about and talk about whatever is happening around under the domain of what we call social, or like social natural, or like the material plane that we are sort of enmeshed in. And in this sense, like of course, like the language already makes itself obvious. I'm a bit, following Latour,
okay,
in his actor network theory, and so I think that if sociology focuses more on these non-human actors and try to problematize what agency means by taking their focus on these actants, I think maybe sociology can move beyond these age-old dilemmas and dualisms that have been basically poisoning it for the longest time now.
Right.
So that's like my ethical project, maybe, like saving sociology, which sounds like really narcissistic, like who am I to save sociology? But maybe the idea of sociology that I have, and I want to just make it a bit more capable, and I think that's it.
For once, it would be a sociologist who saves sociology, which is a nice change.
But I think most sociologists try that and fail. So, like, I think I'm probably down that path. So, like, my hopes aren't up. It's just like, just a quest.
Yeah.
Just an adventure, yeah.
Great. Do you want to talk about your research a little bit, Gabrielle? You don't have to. I'm not going to force you.
That's like a tricky question to ask a PhD student. Of course, I want to talk
You're
about
right. It's maybe not. It's kind of an ambush question a little bit, but I don't know. Well, what are you doing these days in your PhD?
Okay, I'm going to switch back to the first question.
Okay.
Because the second one is one I really don't want to answer right now.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
But so I'm working. I did my master's on the same subject. It was in ethnography. It was in a workshop in a cultural center in Paris.
Yeah.
I was tailored for people over 60 to come and try different video games.
Yeah.
It really was. My master's thesis was really close to the field, and now I'm trying to expand a little bit. And I guess my focus are the discrepancies between the discourses on silver gamers, especially in the media, like in the press and on television and online. You have
like, is there like a really dominant discourse that's sort of that? What is it?
It's something about how first it's really cute that older people would play video games, which is infuriating, and then it's about how it's good for them because then they're more healthy, and then they can spend time with the grandkids, and then they can consume more, and then it's how video games make older people better for society. And not only is that really interesting in a neoliberal context, because you can see how the imperative to be productive goes into every single corner, including aging and play, which are two things that are traditionally really away from the imperative of productivity.
Right.
And also, you get to see how different discourses and practices are, which is one of the things I really enjoy about sociology. It's not only do you not trust discourses, but you get the chance to see how they apply or do not apply to people's lives. You get to see the heterogeneity of people over 60 who play games, like you have all kinds of profiles.
Yep.
And also I want to see, and that's kind of the third point and where discourses and practices intersect, kind of want to see how older adults who play video games react to that discourse. If they embrace it, resist it, refuse to admit they're playing video games, are hiding it from people around them. It's something that's been documented. Like when you're over 60 and you play the Game Boy, you tend to hide it in your toilets because you don't want anyone else to see it. Because, yeah. Plus, you get lots of amazing anecdotes about how even like people you wouldn't expect to play video games, because I'm as susceptible as anyone about the stereotypes of gamers.
Yes.
How people who you wouldn't expect to play video games are actually quite proficient at both playing them and managing their playing, making it more or less visible, more or less acceptable, adapting it to the audience they're talking to. People are really amazing. That's where I'm going, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have one sort of idea of who plays video games. Or not one, but a sort of dominant idea of who plays video games.
And till now, we've looked not enough, but at gender. And we're starting to look a little bit at race. And then there's social class that's coming up too.
Right.
Age is a far distant competitor in the big field of the intersectionality of gaming.
Right.
But ageism is making like a
big comeback. There's money for research on age.
Great.
But the problem is
neoliberalism.
all the but they want me to say that gaming is amazing for older people, and I'm saying that no, and anyway nobody cares.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how I'm going to get the monies.
That's true.
Yep.
Maybe
My integrity
it's always
is being
a trick.
threatened.
Yeah. You just give them the keywords and hope that they don't look over the abstract details.
Right.
Yeah.
Give me all the money.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, you guys. I think we can wrap it up here. And thanks so much. It's been really great because, we're trying to figure out this whole ethnography lab thing, and hearing about your project, I think just hearing about it has given me a greater sense of what is happening in this lab. So thanks so much for sharing that with me. It's great.
Thank you for having us. This is great.
Yeah. So, thank you. That was Gabrielle Lavenir and Cheda Yolgormez talking to us about the Trucking Research Group. Thank you so much for that. All right, well, coming up next, we have a little segment we like to call Conference Corner. Conference Corner, which is sort of a roving reporter bit where we are going to go around to student conferences and talk to people about their experiences at the conference, sort of a post-panel scrum. So up first, we were at the Sociology and Anthropology Graduate Students Association conference at the end of March. It was called the Boldly Go. And here we have Kris Millett and Adam van Sertima talking to people about their experiences at the conference.
Sandra from the sociology department, and we're just wondering if you had a few thoughts on the talk on space law and Mars exploration that is the keynote address of the SAGSA conference.
Well, as I was saying to Guillaume and to Danielle, I think that the topic is very interesting. I think it's a needed one, and the fact that we are thinking about it as sociologists and anthropologists is also, I think, a demonstration that we're not only focusing on traditional objects of sociology, and at the same time, the only thing that I wish we could have been talking a little bit more is the actual approaches to think differently in order to create this change that we've been talking about so much.
Right. And we also have Guillaume here from the PhD program. Would you like to chime in as well on this?
Sure. Well, I agree with what Sandra just said, but I think as I was saying earlier, I think it's very the discussion on these topics is often very limited. Is limited to a very select number of people.
Yes.
Mostly men from STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering disciplines, and it's extremely important to broaden this discussion and include critical perspectives. To make sure that those who think about these things are not only the people who dream about exploring space and exploring other planets, which might be a very fulfilling and interesting dream, but we also have to include the perspectives of those who are more afraid or frightened by this perspective.
Different perspectives.
No, that I agree with what he's saying. Yes.
I suppose that to some degree that is the point of this conference. I know I'm moderating a panel on gender and feminism this afternoon that I'm hoping is going to kind of blow up some of the framing around the discussion that's it's actually still happening right now. We're in the interview room.
It's always happening.
It's always
Hi, and so what's your name?
James.
James? What did you think of the conference? What did you think of the panel we just saw?
I thought it was great. I thought it's really like a modern talk. So really, where does humanity's fate lie in the future, which I thought was super interesting. Most of the stuff I go to on campus is more about like the present, like sustainability, what can we do now, or stuff in the past, so let's say like history of colonization and all that. So it's very interesting looking into the future for change.
Fantastic. And how does this relate to your own research?
Well, it doesn't relate to anything I'm doing right now, but I think just after this conference is something I would like to do in the future. Especially the post-humanism, like what does it mean as we're just introducing more robots or as we're becoming more machine-like. I'm interested in how that changes our relationships between human beings and also what it means for humanity in general.
Can I give your name?
Yeah, my name's Demi.
Hi, Demi. What's your take on the panel that you just did?
It's really hard to imagine the future. And whatever we will imagine will probably not happen. Something else will happen. And we need backup. And so the reason why I said applied anthropology is really important, it's not just applied anthropology, it's applied social sciences. And we need to work together as a team in order to figure out what the people want, what works, what doesn't work, and to have all the information in front of us to properly assess where are we going next. And it can't be coming just from the business side. It can't just be coming from laws. It can't just be coming from Elon Musk, because they're missing all these important things that we are able to pay attention to that they often miss out on. And so when I was bringing up the idea of application, it's not just to rush into and just protest without having any information in front of us. It's doing the research, coming up with the ideas, looking at them, and then properly assessing as a team, as an interdisciplinary team involving the people on Earth, what are we doing next?
I felt like it went very well with Gabrielle's presentation. I didn't know that it would be so connected because she also talked about the themes of honor and exchange of women specifically, which I thought was very interesting. So, yeah, and I wasn't sure I would be able to respond to questions, but I'm glad most of them were directed towards Gabrielle. But I hopefully was able to answer questions well enough for people. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Mona. So, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
My name is Sandra Caillot.
Hi, Sandra.
And I'm doing a master here in sociology. And about the conference, I guess I'm really happy because the theme allows us to bring topics that allow us to be creative with our ways to see the world. And just the last panel on feminism, seeing the script analysis of how gender is being represented and the characters or roles that you give to different individuals, which could be a reflection of society or a fantasy that we would like to be observed in reality. In some ways, I think is very interesting because it's new and it just, I don't know, I really enjoy that. And also the topic about virgin imperative. As a woman, I can understand it, and I think it's also interesting to be able to relate to the issues, and even though we don't relate, just engage in it and be curious about it. So I think that this conference this year is actually encouraging curiosity, challenging our own positions, and creativity, which I think are all good components of the intellectual work that we're doing here. So just saying bravo to everybody who participated, and I can't wait to hear the other panels, and yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Are you a student here, professor?
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to this, our first episode. It's been so great to chat with you and have you be a part of this with me. I also want to say thank you to Cheryl Yogormez, Gabrielle Lavenir, Adam Van Sertima and the Snipes, Elizabeth White, and Ariana Solis, who is still with me. And Ariana's going to help me because there's some people we would like to thank in association with the Ethnography Lab.
Yes, well, we would especially like to thank the Concordia Center for Interdisciplinary Studies in Society and Culture, or CISC, and all of the departments that are involved. So that includes the Department of Education, Sociology and Anthropology, the Center for Engineering and Society, the Department of Geography, Planning and Environment, Design and Computational Arts, as well as Political Science, Communication, Creative Arts Therapy, and Art Education.
So thank you guys. Yes, we love you, and thank you for your support in making this project happen, the Ethnography Lab happen.
And the Milou Institute, where we are hosted, and the Speculative Life Cluster, for which we are a part.
Yes, thank you to you guys, too. We couldn't do this without you, and we really appreciate all of your support. I'm joined here, as always, with Kris Millett and Anne-Marie Turcotte, and I am Johnny B. Say goodbye, everybody. I'm Johnny B., and thank you for listening to our first episode of Best Concordia. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.